Welcome back, everyone, to our prayer journey with Mike Totes as we continue stepping through the book of Mark, one verse at a time. Today, we're going to cover chapter 9 and verses 30 through 37. And I'm sure many of the people that look on have had young children that they brought up or young children they've been around, and maybe grandchildren. And you got a couple of them sometimes that you would look at and say, boy, I hope they make it when they grow up, because they're either too foolish, too kind, too mean to grow up and survive in this world, especially in our day where things are really hard sometimes because of the political ramifications. And we worry about that. Could you imagine Jesus, what he was thinking, how he was worried with the men that he has, these foolish men? He tells them these things over and over, and they don't get it. And then they get something, and they're rejected a few minutes later because the thing they said contradicted the thing they believed. And he's got to turn over everything to them. He's going to tell them again, I'm going to die, and I'm going to resurrect from the dead, and you're going to be on your own. And, they just don't get it. So let's pick it up, and we'll read here in verse 30, chapter 9. And they departed thence and passed through Galilee, and as he would not that any man should know it. So he snuck off again. He's trying to get this quiet time with his disciples so he can fill them in on things that are going on that God's plan has. And he does. For he taught his disciples and said unto them, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and after that he is killed, he shall rise on the third day. But they understood not the saying, and were afraid to ask him. Now, Jesus is walking with them all the time. They're more afraid of asking him, I think, because they want to make believe, I know what he's talking about. I got this down. And yet, they're all probably confused. So, we're going to pick up now as they continue walking. And he came to Capernaum. All right, that's the town in verse 33. And beginning in a house, he asked them, what is that ye disputed among yourselves along the way? So along this journey they were having, they were discussing something that Jesus knew. And it shows the humanity, the pride, the condition of man, what they were fighting about. But in 34, they held their peace, for by the way they had disputed among themselves who should be the greatest. How is Jesus going to teach them this thing? We just got off from the beginning of chapter 9, where they could not heal a person that had a demon. And the reason they couldn't, he said they had to come out by prayer and fasting. And what he's really talking about is you got to maintain the relationship with me and be in my power to heal that kind of thing. And here they are again, getting into their own power. Who is the greatest? So he sat down in verse 35 and called the 12 and said unto them, if any man desire to be first, the same shall be last of all and servant of all. You want to be first? Be a servant. What did Jesus come to do? He came to serve. What does Mark show him doing? He shows him serving man, laying down his life for man. He is not lording over anyone. He is laying himself bare before mankind and taking the abuse that we're going to see later to death to save our souls. So he took a child and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said unto them. So he puts this child in the midst of them. And then after they look at the child a little bit, this child's going to be serving them because he's a child. I know as a young kid, we would be the controller for the TV. I might get up and change the channel for me, and you would sit there and change the channel for your dad because they didn't have controllers. All right, so he puts in the midst, and then he picks him up in his arms. Whosoever shall receive one such child in my name receiveth me. And whosoever shall receive me, receiveth not me, but him that sent me. Every person, every child is important to Jesus. That's why you have choice. He goes on in verse 38. And then John answered him, saying, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we followed us not, and we forbade him, because he followed us not. I'm going to stop here, because there's two illustrations in this part of Mark. One is on this thing with the leadership being the greatest servant of all. And the next part is on it a little bit, but it transcends into what's going to happen to people who do not accept Jesus Christ. And that is hell and damnation. So I want to just read this verse again in 38, and we'll remember it for our next time, and we'll think about it even for now. And John answered him, saying, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and he followed us not. And we forbade him, because he followed us not. All right. Why is John doing that? Is that taken away from Jesus' glory if people are getting healed in his name? No. But it does take away from their position with Jesus. They're the ones a little bit jealous. So they were debating among themselves who would be the greatest, and they're debating, why should these people get any attention? And yet, what did Jesus come for? He came to spread the gospel to the whole world. This is part of his plan. In fact, I will read one more verse. But Jesus said, Forbid him not, for there is no man which shall do a miracle in my name that can lightly speak evil of me. Jesus said, let him alone. Let him go. Because they're spreading the name of Jesus and salvation throughout the world. Take a look at ourselves. Are we worried about our position? Or are we worried about souls getting saved and coming to Jesus Christ? My hope and prayer is that everyone that listens into videos that is not saved will come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. So until next time, may Jesus increase as we decrease.